Okay, go ahead.
All right. Does it look like it's on? Okay. So this is the fire weather briefing for Washington and North Idaho. It's June 26th, 2025. I am Brent Bauer in Seattle, and we have Todd in Spokane. So we're going to start off looking at a map of some lightning strikes. We had somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 lightning strikes from some activity that was pretty much brushing by to our north, but we did get that many in eastern Washington, mainly along the northern zones, and particularly in the northeastern corner. There's a little bit of precipitation with that, just a few scattered showers on western Washington that did not get any of the convection. But you see a little bit of precip just grazing the northern part of the state. Most of it went off into Canada. Here's our current status. There is this low pressure system up in the upper atmosphere up over Alaska, but we do have a little bit of a weak system and troughiness over us, over Washington, and that's what's bringing more clouds, cooler weather, and some of the chances of showers that we're going to see for the next couple of days. That will eventually have the ridge rebuild after that. There's a close-up on the cloudiness, so you can see much of western Washington, but even over most of the Cascades as well have been clouded in. We've got a good onshore flow right with that. And then a lot sunnier on the eastern side, but there is still some cloudiness over parts of the east side as well. So for the problem of the day in our fire weather matrix for western Washington, we'll see just a chance of rain showers today and tomorrow, and then as the ridge builds in, we'll start warming and drying trend through the weekend into early next week, with Monday for us being the hottest day and getting pretty toasty on that day. We'll look at some actual numbers here a little bit later, and then we'll start cooling down again starting Tuesday. So Todd, you want to talk about the east side?
Noticing warmer and drier conditions, and then hotter and drier Monday into Wednesday, and a little bit of a breakdown of the ridge, some breezy gap winds to take note of for Tuesday. But definitely looks like summer is coming on strong later next week.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to some, boy, this is not, oh, I just got logged out of our briefing. Let me try another one, or I might have to do something else. Hold on one moment, see if I can bring up another version, or if I have to re-log in. Sorry about this. Man.
Yeah, so folks, folks happy from time to time. We'll get it up here in a minute. Yeah, so Ben, I think mine's working. Do you want me to try to pull that up? Oh, there we go.
Okay, sorry about that. I do not know where that was going. Let's see if it's gonna give me a tap. Yay. Okay. Um, so looking at the weather for there's not a lot to look at the first few days. It did show the breeziness, but we're going to look at day 2. We'll look at winds, mainly an issue on the east side. Do you want to speak to that, Todd? We'll look at day 2 and then next week as far as winds, or do you want to take that on?
So we have breezy winds in the green on the matrix in the slide deck, and the reason we are getting some decent gap winds later tonight and into Friday, but the relative humidities will be up because of that cloud cover and those systems moving through. So that's the reason it's in the green.
Okay. And just again, the other part of today that we talked about were the showers. And so again, mostly it's along the northern part of Washington, but we do see 20 to 30%, near 40% chances of writing rain, at least in the mountains mainly. But again, it's restricted to the northern part of the state. In talking about the warm up, that's really starting day 5, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And if you look at the max temperatures, on the western side, we're getting up into the 90s in the elevated mountain valleys and even some of the lower areas near 90. But on the eastern side, you can see that it's getting well into the 90s and triple digits for the central part of the state. And that's going to remain pretty warm through Tuesday on the at least on the east side. We start cooling off, and still pretty hot on day 7. Going back to this hot day here, minimum relative humidities are going to be pretty dry, getting into the teens on the east side. For the western elevated valleys that we're hitting up near 90, there are some places that look like we might dip below 30%. So we're approaching, but probably not reaching critical values there. But the east side, we're definitely getting into the teens on that stretch of hot and dry. And then we're going to add the wind here. Again, so Todd, you want to speak to your...
So yeah, preliminary indications are just a little bit of a breakdown of the ridge and some breezy gap winds again showing up on Tuesday. But the difference between today and tomorrow's winds versus next Tuesday is we're going to be very dry. So at this time, even preliminarily, it doesn't look like critical conditions, but things change. So just keep an eye out for that trend coming up next week, Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, so that speaks to just the elevated conditions that we were talking about in the matrix there. So let's go to some specific trends. I'm going to start on the west side, and then I'll let talk about the east side. So here's Ore Creek, Southern Cascades. Um, you can see it. We'll start kind of stay pretty much the same next couple of days, but then we have that warming trend peaking on Monday, where it's in the low 90s. This is even showing some uh, mid 20% relative humidity on that day, and then it starts cooling off slightly, but it still starts cooling off and gets a little bit more moist after that. Let's see, we'll go over to, let's see if I can find it. If I there, give that. Why don't you take that on? We'll look at viewpoint and then the other couple ones you had.
Yeah, the viewpoint RAWs, 3,000 feet in the Cascades there to the south of the Pomus Fire in the Eniat River Valley. Just want to show this trend if you folks are listening in, anybody on the Eniat Ranger District, that just shows the 2-3 days of cooler temperatures and quite the warm up, and then the winds to speak of are just gradually increasing in the mountains in this area. But I would expect these wind trends to be increasing towards the Tuesday timeframe as well. And then the Douglas Raws off to the west there in the flat, or the east in the flat there. The Douglas Raws, the wind trend is definitely coming up going into the Tuesday. It's high the next couple days and then drops off as the ridge builds in. But then going into July, you can definitely see the wind increase. So along with the heat. So just want to highlight that those changes. And then not to leave Idaho out, just wanted to highlight the Hoodoo Raws. Also a warming trend, but to a lesser extent, much lesser extent, not as much of a wind increase trend, pretty static on the winds. So even though we have the warming, further breakdown of the ridge and some kind of transition of a weather system is going to be needed to really bring in some stronger winds. But still something to look out for on that warming trend. That's it, Brent. Thanks.
All right. So looking out 8 to 14 days. Except for the kind of the southwest and southern Puget Sound, which is, as far as temperatures are concerned, are looking to be near normal. There's greater odds of above normal for probably the other 2/3 of the state, and particularly north, and greater as you go eastward into northern Idaho. And then on precipitation, pretty much the same area has slightly greater odds of above normal precipitation, being start of July. There's not a lot of precipitation on average, so above normal doesn't necessarily mean a ton, but they're just better chances than just a climatology there. So we'll conclude with that. Here's contact information, and let's end the recording and open it up for questions.